4 students got fatally stabbed in an off-campus residence in Moscow, Idaho, to November 13, 2022. Welcome to my channel. My name is Cleo, and this is about the Idaho murders.
It's the chilling last photo of 4 University of Idaho students taken just hours before they were found murdered. It's being called a crime of passion. The killer or killers used an edged weapon such as a knife, police just revealed.
I'm going to be reading 2 different letters, one from Dylan and one from Bethany. My life was greatly impacted to have known these 4 beautiful people.
And Bethany Funk.
Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan were truly all one of a kind. They all lit up any room they walked into and were gifts to this world.
Detectives arrested 28-year-old Bryan Christopher Kohberger in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania.
December 30th, 2022, officials announced the arrest of suspect Bryan Kohberger, the man they say is responsible for the murders of University of Idaho students.
It's almost too good to be true, unless this guy was miraculously set up, which is like a 1 in a billion chance. You know, no one cares enough about Bryan Kohberger to set him up.
I recognized him immediately and my heart just sank because I couldn't believe that I was face to face with this guy.
I used to go on night runs with him because I didn't want to go running at night by myself. So I would text him hey, you want to go for a run? We'd go for 6-7 mile runs at night. So when I saw who it was, I was just in complete shock. I'm still kind of shaking knowing about that. It's just unreal to think somebody could actually do that to somebody. It's absolutely mind-boggling.
The 3 female victims' names were Madison Mugen, Sana Canoodle, and Kylie Gonzalez. The 4th victim was a male. His name was Ethan Chapin. He was the boyfriend to Sana Canoodle. There were other 2 females living in this house, but they did not get attacked. The autopsy showed no sign of sexual assault, and they weren't tied or gagged. The autopsy showed that they were stabbed multiple times and that at least one of the victims tried to fend off the attacker. The suspect got arrested more than 6 weeks after the murders. He got arrested 2022 December 30. He is facing 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. Prosecutors announced 26th of June that they would pursue the death penalty. A lot of people were invested in this case, and it made the job harder for the cops, and of course they probably got some help out of it. Everybody was a suspect, and people really took the time to analyze the activities before the murder. There is 18 pages of the cops entering their home, them searching through the social media, phones, anything they can get their hands on. This video is not about the evidence and going deep in the murder. There's so many videos about that, so if you want to get really invested and go in details about the evidence, about the murder, you can absolutely do so in other videos. In this video, I want to talk about the suspect. The suspect's name is Bryan Kohberger. The reason I want to speak about Bryan Kohberger only is because he is a PhD student in criminology. PhD stands for Doctor of Philosophy and is considered the highest postgraduate achievement you can earn. So he is really advanced in his study and can't even imagine the knowledge he has in crime and justice. On top of that, the woman that was his teacher has written 69 books and is a professor in forensic psychology and criminal justice in DeSales University. I will go in deeper into that, but first let us start with Kohberger. Bryan Kohberger graduated in Pleasant Valley High School 2013, but spent most of his 20s in DeSales University. The school is private and has about a total of 5,000 students. Surrounding the school is cornfields and other small neighborhoods. Consider how small it is. You probably know the people you take classes with, or the people that go to school you've probably seen or heard of, or you probably know them, of course. But They didn't know Kohberger that much. The people that went to school with him or took classes with him was in absolute shock when they heard the news and what he was accused of. People that took classes with Bryan Kohberger or been around him saw him as friendly, intelligent, awkward, didn't stand out that much but blended in like a normal guy. Some said he was a heavy heroin user in high school, but then he became clean. Then there were a woman that went on a date with him in 2015. She explained that it became weird after the movies. Kohberger drove her home, and he then became very pushy to come up to her room. She invited him up, and then she started to explain that he became different. He wasn't the same guy that she went on the movies with, and she became uncomfortable. She said nothing about him trying to grab her or touch her. For me, he just seems like a really, really awkward guy that doesn't know how to act or how to be around women. He's happy that she didn't get assaulted or killed. According to reports, Bryan Kohberger got bullied by girls in high school. Girls felt that he was creepy, and every time he got turned down, he would get visibly upset. So why did he commit these murders? Was it because he hated women? Was it because he wanted to take out his anger on these women for all the rejections he got? Or is it a totally different reason? Let us go back to the DeSales University. Bryan Kohberger studied or got taught by Catherine Ramsland, the woman I mentioned earlier that wrote 69 books, is a professor in forensic psychology and criminal justice. She will not comment on Bryan Kohberger or do any interviews surrounding Bryan Kohberger. She made that crystal clear. Ramsland published books about murder, the supernatural, or other aspects of crime. A few of her books that she has written is called The Mind of a Murderer, How to Catch a Killer, and The Human Predator. In Ramsland's books, she often mentioned the BTK killer. The BTK killer's own daughter has explained that Ramsland had an academic relationship and friendship with the BTK killer. Surely this is nothing uncommon. I mean, she's a professor in forensic psychology and criminal justice. I guess this is actually what they do. They interview killers. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if she has mentioned him a lot or had him as a topic in her classes, considering that she has mentioned him a lot in her books. The BTK killer's daughter feels that there are some similarities between Kohberger and her father. BTK's killer's name is Rader, and he was also a graduate in criminal justice. The BTK's killer's first victims were a family of 4 that he strangled to death in their house, 1974. BTK killer himself feels like he has no connection to Kohberger. Maybe there are some similarities. But me personally, I think Kohberger got influenced off the BTK killer. And before I go to my speculations as why Kohberger might have committed these murders, it's worth mentioning that after the killings of the students, he was very active in social media and went under the name of Papa Rogers. The reason why people think that Papa Roger is Bryan Kohberger is because he was very active in a Facebook crime group, and he posted frequently. And so when Kohberger got arrested, it stopped. Not only that, the things he wrote and said about the actual crime was weird. It was like he must have been there to know these certain details. People also think that he went under the name Inside Looking in Reddit and made some chilling speculations about the murder. He often insisted that his speculations was always right. And I have to agree with the people. Some of the things he wrote was just weird. It's like he really went into details from entering the house to leaving the house. The details were chilling. Luckily, a user did take out keywords from Papa Roger's speculations, and I'm gonna read them to you. Bryan clues drop. Left seat behind, fled from high side of the house. Walked from the scene, most likely parked down the road. Sana was reason for blood drip down house where her body was. Unable to obtain firearm, so used knife. He only cleaned his knife off and not himself. He likes dogs, is why the dog was unharmed. Possibly motives, he said. Excellent when someone commit this. Potential reasons, house full of girls, house full of specific girls. He said he believes killer took something from the house. He stated, it matters if you are cheating a profile of a very violent killer. Clue 12. I believe they are familiar but temporary to the area, like working a short-term construction project. These are the few of the clues, at least, why people think Papa Roger is Bryan. People also felt like Papa Rogers was seeking attention and was probing. It also felt like he was steering people to false conclusions. When I read that the users explained that Papa Rogers tried to steer them into false conclusion, it made me think about a post Papa Rogers posted where he said, regardless of what has been released, I believe this is a sexual motivated crime. The first time I read that, I knew 100%, and I still do, that this is not a sexual motivated crime. It is far from the truth. That is what I feel. And I also felt 100% that that is not what he believes himself. So where am I going with this? I personally believe that he was seeking attention. Please hear me out. He is a PhD student in criminology and law and has studied under a professional in this subject. Let us say that he is Papa Rogers, which is not confirmed. I don't know. I don't know if that is confirmed. User says that it felt like he was seeking attention and that he was trying to show off his work. That is how I see it, how I understood it. People that has studied with him saw him as very awkward, intelligent, and a person that is for himself a lot. Bryan Kohberger has studied to an advanced level in crime and justice and has studied under a professor seen as a real professional in this subject. So why wouldn't he want some attention from her? I haven't been to a class with Kohberger, so I'm just speculating. He probably saw her as someone high, and considering that he didn't get so much attention in general in life, maybe she commented on his work in a positive manner. And that made him want to impress her more. I believe I'm speculating that she has mentioned the BTK killer many times in her classes. In what way she spoke of him, only the people that took her classes knows. But considering that she has written a lot about him and probably mentioned him in classes, I think she spoke of him in an interesting way. You know what I mean? So my speculation is I think Kohberger did see her as someone high. And here she is talking about somebody in that way. And maybe Kohberger, wanted her or people to speak of him in that way. I do not see these murders as a sexual act because the autopsy showed no sign of sexual assault. And after, if Papa Roger is Kohberger, after that post, it just proved it. I honestly believe that this is no sexual act. That is my speculation and what the video was about. I honestly believe that he wanted a certain attention. He wanted people to talk about him. And I think in a way he got influenced off the BTK killer. And I think, and it's not to be rude to the professor, but I think the way maybe she spoke about the BTK killer had some kind of influence. And I understand why she doesn't want to do any interviews regarding Kohberger. And in all honesty, I do not judge her for that. So shortly, what has happened so far with Kohberger. In 2023, Kohberger was indicted by a grand jury and was expected to enter a plea. Kohberger stood silent, so a judge entered the plea not guilty for him. On the crime scene, there was a knife sheath left behind. They took a DNA sample from Kohberger and it matched the DNA on the sheath. Before that, they linked Kohberger's DNA to the crime scene through his father's DNA. Then they took a chick swap and it was a direct hit to Kohberger. The prosecutors were seeking death penalty. Bryan Kohberger's defense lawyers wants the judge to order the prosecutors to hand over police officers' records. When it comes to evidence, I have heard that there is 51 terabytes worth of evidence, which is insane because that is 51 computers, people. Kohberger's mother and father was called in to testify in front of a Pennsylvania grand jury. It was about a woman called Dana Smith that was last seen leaving her friend's house in May 28, 2022. A year later, her remains were later found in about 30 minutes drive from Kohberger's family home. However, the investigators found zero evidence connecting Kohberger to Dana's death. The trial of Kohberger is set on October 2nd, and people have been waiting for the information regarding the gag order. The gag order means that the judge prohibits witnesses, prosecutors, lawyers to talk about the case in public. An Idaho judge has denied 30 news organizations to lift up the gag order on Bryan Kohberger. Anyone that is involved in this case are prohibited to make any statements about this case, written or oral. Any information that could make this an unfair trial or change the outcome of this trial is prohibited. If somebody is representing a family and wants to leave this case, wants off, they are still prohibited from speaking about this case. So the judge made sure that nothing is going to stand in the way of a fair trial and any information going out for the sake of the outcome of this trial. I haven't found any information regarding cameras in the trial, if there's going to be any. I hope so. It would absolutely suck. If not, this is a huge case. I guess if no cameras, we'll have to read about it. Anyway, guys, that was my speculations of Kohberger. It would be a different video, and it would be a longer video if I would go deeper into the details in the murder and the evidence and everything like that. Things that stick with me, things that open my interest is the actual person. And he is a PhD student in crime. He has studied so hard to get to an advanced level that he has to even make his own original work. And it makes you think why you would throw that all away and commit a crime. What made him want to choose that path? And that is why I find crime interesting. So that is why I found him a bit interesting. Still, I hope he gets what he deserves for the murders of these beautiful students. I hope he really gets what he deserves. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like and subscribe today for more. Take care. Bye-bye.